It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. It's C Block, and today's date is April 2nd. It happens to be a Wednesday. John, you're going to get tired of me talking about this, but I thought this was very interesting. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Did you see the article on STLPR about KDHX?
No, I didn't. Is it new?
It was last week, but there's been several articles. First off, let me preface this by saying that, and I'm not one of these guys that's trying to say, John, I told you so, I told you so. Okay, well, let me give you the headline here. KDHX, this is on STLPR, KDHX will sell broadcast license to K-Love chain for at least $4.35 million. Now.
Wow, that's great.
Two different aspects here, okay? It came out, February? Was it January when the story came out that University of Missouri is going to essentially transition out of the broadcasting business? And to this day, we still don't know the details of how the Friends of KWMU are going to end up in possession of KWMU and KMST and WQUB in Quincy. There's 3 stations involved. Hold on a minute. I had to cough. Okay. And I called and tried to get... Here we go. My microphone's going again. Hold on a minute. Okay. Hold on a minute. Do you hear me okay?
Yep.
Or is that my monitor? No, it's the microphone. Hold on just a minute. Okay. No. Damn it. Did I say that? Hoover, damn it. John, we may have to end this show because you can't hear me over the air. The microphone's real fuzzy. Let me try this. Hold on. Okay. Did I get it going? Okay, I think I got it fixed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem is you're hearing me through a different system. You're not hearing. You're not hearing me on the microphone that's going over the air. You're hearing me on a different microphone. Okay. They announced they're going to do the sale, and I said the University of Missouri is going to give the station to KDHX or to KWMU, and you went, can't be. Well, I say it is because of the fact that nobody will answer that question. I've talked to their official spokesperson.
So the fact that you're not getting a clear answer, you say means that they're going to give the station away.
Yes, because of the fact.
Gotcha.
Because of the fact.
And we know that's not true, but that's your theory, right?
I'm telling you, it's the truth. To me, the hypocrisy of it. How come a reporter from KWMU for St. Louis Public Radio? Here, my mic's going on. How come a reporter for St. Louis Public Radio can write extensively about another radio station and how much they're being sold for, but yet they can't report their own radio station situation?
Because they don't have, and for folks who are joining us for the first time, welcome. We've talked about this story several times, and the answer is the same, Brad. A news outlet can't give you an answer that they don't have. So if Joe Manis, who's a dead horse that you like to beat, if she doesn't have an answer to what the final price tag will be, she can't give you that answer.
But there should be.
You're going to tell a successful business / nonprofit what they should do, right?
No, I'm saying I'm as a taxpayer, I want to know. As a taxpayer, I want to know. Okay. I could care less,
And so have you – now here's a question, Brad. The University of Missouri Board of Curators oversees UMSL, right?
Right.
And so have you asked anybody from the University of Missouri Board of Curators, who I think will have final approval of this, have you asked them for an official statement? Or did you go to the local St. Louis Public Radio reporter?
I, believe it or not, you're not going to believe this, but I did put in a call to the curators, and I've not been returned.
Okay, probably because they don't have an answer. I get it.
Well, couldn't they call me back and say, "Hey, Brad, thanks for your question, but we don't have an answer"?
I think if you were KMOX or 97.1, I think they would take the time to return your call. They probably don't know that you do a show with me, Brad.
John's making me feel real good about myself. Okay, let me go on with this. Okay, the interesting part of this story is that they're going to get $4.35 million, but it could be as high as $4.8 million if they hurry the sale along, okay?
That makes sense. I mean, you want to give them an incentive to stop dragging their feet, right?
Well, the problem is the station can't legally do that because they're in bankruptcy court right now. So, in other words, it's out of their control as to how fast this moves because the bankruptcy court has to approve any pending sale and stuff like that. But what gets me about this is I would be willing to bet that when they filed the bankruptcy application or bankruptcy declaration, that their outstanding debt is extremely low. I mean, remember, you had the thing. What was the number two? Remember, we talked about this. The number two, the second largest creditor was a public relations firm. Didn't they?
It was only like $80,000.
Right.
I mean, that goes to show if they're the second biggest and it's only $80,000, like that's negligible.
Okay, I'm going to go on record saying this, and then my mic cuts out again. Hold on a minute. I don't know if this is my headset going out or what this is. You know what? Hold on. Let me do this. Okay. No, that's not going to do it. Okay, we may have to just go ahead and end the show because of the fact that this is going to be sounding terrible. But here's my point. My point is, I will say it, and if you want to sue me, if you people at KDHX want to sue me, whoever is behind this, they keep talking about they're going to stay in business. What are they going to do? They don't have a radio station anymore. What are they going to do? What are they going to use let's say they had $1 million in debt, which I know they don't. Let's say they had $1 million in debt. They're going to end up with $3.5 or $3.35 million. They're all going to give themselves a nice payday. They're all going to stroke themselves a nice check. They're going to, make themselves some kind of a podcasting entity, and they're going to pay themselves $300,000 a year.
That sounds like a pretty good deal, right? Like, so do you see a problem with that?
I have a huge problem with that because of the fact, see, John, you know what? Some days I think to myself, I'm just wound too tight. There's an article that was written the other day. Matter of fact, I put it up on my Facebook page, and I know Facebook's for boomers and stuff like that.
Go ahead. Let's go.
It's this guy, and matter of fact, it's really interesting article, and I just shared it. Okay, that's all I did. I just shared it, and the interesting thing was I had some very interesting comments on it. This was a guy by the name of Jimmy Hicks. Okay, and it starts out, "Dear Radio, I didn't come looking for you. You weren't a dream I carried since childhood. I wasn't the kid who stayed up late tuning through AM stations trying to catch distant singles, yada, yada, yada." He goes on. It's several paragraphs long. Okay, who is Jimmy Hicks? Jimmy Hicks is a guy who's been in the radio business a long time, but now is primarily in the podcasting industry.
Good for him. Like, he saw the way it was going, and he left a dying industry.
But of the top 10 podcasts in the country, he claims to produce 7 of them, okay? But what he says is the podcasting industry sucks because now, and he says exactly what I say all along. Anybody can grab a laptop. You can go to a Guitar Center, buy yourself a $25 microphone, buy yourself a little gizmo, mixer or something like that, and you're a podcaster, okay? The problem is 99.8% of the podcasts, they just suck. Okay? If you listen to iHeart's big thing is if you listen to their Patriot station all the time, at the top of the hour newscast, they have like this 6-minute block at the top of the hour. They do 2 minutes worth of news, and they do 4 minutes of podcast promos. Hey, listen to this podcast. And some of them, I'm thinking to myself, if you put a gun to my head and said, listen to this, I'd say, go ahead and pull the trigger.
Yeah, and maybe they're trying to cast a wide net, right? Maybe you're not the target audience for all of them.
But they suck, John.
But you haven't listened to them, but you say they suck.
I have listened to the one. The one they've got Gronkowski and Edelman. They're doing things dude and not dude. And their whole thing is, hey, today we're going to talk about Tom Brady. Is he a dude or not a dude? I'm going, okay, whatever. This is just...
But do you think that 69-year-old men are their target audience?
Yeah, I do.
They're not. And you know that's not true. And so do you think that the companies that produce these podcasts, do you think that they don't look at their metrics and decide what resources to put behind which podcast?
But John, you're walking right into my point here.
So make the point.
My point is that NPR makes a ton of money off their podcast, and so does iHeart because they promote them on the radio. So here's the deal with KDHX has a radio station that they could have easily, we call it in our industry called NTR, non-traditional revenue. Non-traditional revenue. Traditional revenue is we have a commercial on the air, people send us a check to run this commercial, we run the commercial on the air. That's traditional radio. Non-traditional radio is we have website sponsors, we have, studio sponsors. We have, somebody sponsors a podcast or stuff like that. Okay, KDHX, and I'll say it again. You talk to any podcaster. If you came up with a list of the top 10 podcasters here,
how would they feel about getting the chance to be on radio, Brad? What would they say?
They'd say, "I'm there. I'm one of," because, and to this day, the metrics of musical groups, the metrics of country artists, especially country artists, pop artists, if you have made it onto the radio, you're in the big times. If you're not on the radio, you're a has-been, or you're a wannabe or something like that. The difference between the successful and the unsuccessful country artists are, if you're on the radio, you're a successful country artist. If you've never been played on the radio, you're not a successful country artist.
Do you think a 20-year-old female musician who lives in St. Charles County would rather be played once an hour on Westplex 107.1 or would rather have 5,000 TikTok views?
Well, but John,
you know the answer to that.
No, but John, the point is, just one radio station doesn't make a difference. But the interesting part of that is, and I'll throw us back at you, we've had, and I get this from time to time, matter of fact, almost on a daily basis, I get people pitching me on their records. And twice we've had this where, actually more from that, I think about 3 or 4 times when Shelley and I were doing the show, we interviewed some of these people on the air. They'd send me an email. And I'll never forget the one lady who's lived in North Dakota or something like that, and she had a really good song, which we still play. And when I told her we were going to play that on Westplex 107.1, which you demeaned, she was super excited. Because
and by the way, Brad, I'm going to stop you right there. I've never demeaned Westplex 107.1. My point was that the average 20-year-old would rather have girls her age see her on TikTok than be on a local radio station. Don't put words in my mouth. Go ahead.
But John, once upon a time I was going to write a book about the Me Too effect. And the problem was the Me Too thing got hijacked by the sexual thing. The Me Too effect is, and you know this from marketing, okay, if company A, company B, company C, they're all competitors. And all of a sudden company A comes out with a left-handed monkey wrench with a polyvinyl handle on it, okay? And all of a sudden company B and company C says, oh my God, company A's got that left-handed monkey wrench with a polyvinyl handle. We don't have one too. It's the Me Too effect, okay? So the idea being is that if you get one radio station to play your song, then you can say, well, Westplex 107.1's playing it, and then
I get it.
Music directors go, oh, they're playing it, well, maybe we should be playing it too.
I read J.C. Corcoran's book. I know how that goes.
That's the whole point of it. But what's happened with this is the KDHX people are going to take $4.35 million or $4.8 million, and what are they going to do with it? They're going to feather their own nests. And the problem that I have with this, you had all sorts of people doing local radio. Some of it was weird. I listened to KDHX from time to time. Some of the shows were bizarre. Some of the shows were very interesting. I told you the fact on Sunday mornings, one of my favorite things was I'd listen to a cappella only. I'm a big a cappella guy. I'd listen for 2 hours. I knew some lady did the show, did an excellent job with it. Okay. All of a sudden, all that's gone. And what do we have? We have the same stupid K-Love format. I'm going to have my Christian fans. I can't believe he said that's stupid. It's the same stupid format you can hear when you drive. I'm a scan guy on my radio when I travel. When I drive back and forth between Kansas City, used to do it all the time when my kids lived there, I could hit the scan button, and I could probably in my drive between St. Louis and Kansas City, I could hit K-Love and hit it on 6 or 7 different stations, okay? If radio is dead, why is a company, this Educational Media Foundation company, why are they so hell-bent on buying more and more radio stations? Because they already stream this K-Love format. You can get it on your phone right now. Why do they buy radio stations? Because it's still relevant, and they know it, and people like you will never admit it.
Yeah. And so, Brad, why didn't the people at KDHX get off their butt and actually sell advertising?
They're boneheads. That's why.
Okay, so they're idiots who are going to feather their own nest. K-Love swoops in and is successful. And what's the problem with that?
Because of the fact that they're destroying the radio industry.
Okay, because they're making free. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. It's Mick Radio, and people should do local programming, and they should do it for free. And they should lose money every year because it's the noble thing to do. When I go to Facebook, by the way, I see a day ago, Agnes Lamer commented on your post. I thought you said she was mad at you, Brad.
She is. She's mad at me. She won't talk to me anymore.
Okay, she has the top post on your Facebook page.
And it says what?
It says, "Thank you, broadcaster Brad, for giving me the past 19 years of these exact radio memories. Often overlooked, but never, ever forgotten." That seems like a complimentary statement from a very kind friend who seems to be quite loyal to you.
But I'm the dying breed, John, because of the fact, and here's the interesting thing. I'll give you a perfect example, okay? Politicians. Hey, we're bringing XYZ company to St. Louis. Matter of fact, what's the Scott Drachnick thing? I get his emails all the time. Hey, we're announcing that XYZ company's opening up a plant in O'Fallon and it's going to employ 60 people.
That actually creates jobs, and they're people who actually pay people and pay their bills and hire people.
Okay, but my example is, it used to be that EMF, the company that behind K-Love, bought all these small educational stations. They got money. They are $1 billion company now. They bought WLUP in Chicago, had a staff of 118. You know what the staff of the station is now since K-Love owns it?
I hope they cut them all, and I hope those people are posting angrily on Facebook at the J.C. Corcorans and the Bud Janes of the world and saying, you should have stayed in radio. You should have bought a little station and lost money every year because it's the right thing to do.